Mani, thank you so much for joining me. So, total amount of GST notices that have been served on various people, including the gaming industry, is now over a lakh crore, 100,000 crores. Most of it is obviously retrospective. So, can you tell us broadly about where we are on this front and where it is likely to go?
Okay, so I think the first thing we need to understand over here is that the notices that have been issued, I'm not sure who has totaled it up, but I'm sure whoever has totaled it up has seen, all the notices. I haven't seen all of them. But when we have all the notices, it is very clear that the notices which have been issued largely to the gaming companies talk of a period from 1st July 2017. The key difference for all of them essentially lay in the fact that it was not merely a change of 18% being now topped at 28%. The 18% was on the platform fee charged by the gaming operator, but the view that GST Council took and therefore the clarifications got issued was that the 28% is payable on the entire value. That is why the values have shot up significantly. Now, to be fair, to both sides, as far as the gaming companies are concerned, this is something which is coming as a very bad shock to them. This is not certainly something that they, bargained for. And this is something which has kind of come out of the blue suddenly to derail whatever progress they were, making. So they're obviously, shocked and surprised. But on the other side, if you look at it from the perspective of the taxman or the tax authorities, they are very categorical in saying that the law per se has not changed. And even in the past, from 1st of July 2017, it was necessary for the gaming companies to charge GST on the entire value. That is a perspective that they have brought in. And in the post-GST Council meeting conference, even the Revenue Secretary was very categorical in saying that they have not changed the law. They have merely clarified on the provisions of the law. And if there is a clarification on the provisions of the law, cannot be called retrospective. That is the stand that the government has been taking. But clearly, we have a very long legal battle, ahead, which will be very interesting to watch.
So this is on gaming companies. And as you said, this definition is something that's being challenged. But many other companies, not in gaming, are also getting notices right now. What's your sense on where we are on the overall GST effort? Because the government is also saying that they want to step up even more and collect what I think they consider as outstanding tax.
See, the other notices which have come across, sectors is to a large extent understandable because the period, the first year of GST, which ended on 31st March 2018, the limitation for that, has got kicked off. And therefore, there is very clearly a desire of the tax authorities to issue whatever demands are necessary so that the demands don't become time-bound. We also have to bear in mind that because of the pandemic, the audits in respect of GST got significantly delayed. So what should have happened possibly in 2021, early part of 22, did not happen at that point of time. And large part of the work in terms of GST audits ended up 22.
Let me ask you a slightly larger question. A lot of other companies have been getting GST notices as well. And in some cases, the amounts are high. In some cases, maybe the amounts are not so large. But obviously, it involves and will involve a lot of time and management from their side. How are you seeing the overall GST landscape at this point in terms of all these targets and what companies will have to do to meet them?
See, the overall landscape in terms of GST for corporates is a little tough right now because they are suddenly having to deal with a flurry of notices which call for information, which call for data. A lot of notices have been issued asking them to provide the details in a very short period of time. Now, I can understand that the reason behind this is because the first year of GST is getting time barred very, very soon. And therefore, the tax authorities want to issue all their demands before the time bar sets in. So that is the reason why there is a flurry. The other reason we have to bear in mind is because of the pandemic, there were almost 2 years when the tax authorities could not conduct any GST audits. So therefore, after the pandemic subsided, when corporates and the tax authorities, everyone got back into action, they started doing audits all over the place. And in course of the audits, they have picked up many issues that they feel are where the taxpayer is likely to pay taxes and the taxpayer is liable to pay those taxes. Fortunately for us, we have a very settled legal mechanism where once the notice is issued, it is possible to go and meet the commissioner, explain the reasons for the tax demand and get it done. But overall, these are fairly, I would say, complicated times for most of the corporates who are GST registered. And a lot of time of corporates is going into GST matters.
If you were to look ahead, as you said, this was a time barred. GST authorities had to send those notices right now because they wouldn't have been able to send them later. Would you say that things could then settle down somewhat in 6 months to a year's time?
Yes, I certainly think so. I think once the time bar period gets over and once the audits become routine, once they get into a 2-year, 3-year kind of a cycle, I think all corporates will learn how to deal with those audits, how to keep the data reconciliation and everything ready for their businesses for the respective years. And the tax authorities will also understand that there are quite a few issues which are unsettled in GST. Hopefully, those will also get settled by that period of time.
Right. So the GST department has set fairly aggressive targets. Is it your sense that there is still a gap between what people are due to pay and not paying? I mean, or is the gap large enough? Or do you feel that we are at I'm not talking corporate specifically, but in general, or we are reaching a sort of fairly peak level of compliance?
I think overall, most of the businesses that are liable to get GST registered, they seem to be getting registered. The data in every month in respect of GST collections has been very, very robust, especially in the last 6 months or so. In addition, the number of GST returns that get filed, the number of e-way bills that get generated are phenomenally high. So if we take the e-way bills as an indicator, because goods cannot move anywhere within the country without an e-way bill, if the value of the goods being transported exceeds 50,000 rupees. If we just look at the e-way bill data, that has been going up month on month, progressively over a period of time. To me, that indicates that compliance in the GST era is increasing significantly. Now, whether the compliance is the right degree of compliance, whether we still have some people flying below the radar, is something which possibly the GST authorities are investigating now.
Mani, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you again.